Hey! Sorry about that. I always wanted one of these, but they're radically expensive. And my buddy, they only go for like 650 bucks. It's an Avon M50. And they go for like 650 to 800 or so bucks. And I got it for 100 and a quarter. Yeah, I always wanted one. I also, too, got a half dozen spare filter sets. It's amazing what this particular filter filters out. NBC, nuclear biological chemical filter. Extremely useful. You know, you never know when you're going to need a gas mask. How could you turn down this baby for 100 and a quarter? I couldn't. Sorry about that. How you doing? I might edit that out of this video. No, I won't. I'll leave it in there. Give people a laugh. Someone will probably make a Darth Vader comment. You look like Darth Vader. One thing I actually didn't put in the notes here is that there's several reports that Russia has moved some short to medium range nukes to... I love it when people say nukes don't exist. I just think that is so funny. It kind of like the pancake Earth theory. There's a group of people out there that think that atomics don't actually exist, which is rather ridiculous. Anyway, Russia's moved some short to medium range to their border. It's just kind of amazing. You know how you slipped so close to WW3? Not that that's funny at all, but remember when the news media kept talking about the prior guy to oatmeal applesauce that was going to bring us to WW3, but currently it's oatmeal applesauce. That's not politics. That's an objective, demonstrable, accurate statement. I find that interesting, don't you? I do. Here's an interesting fact for you. I've never heard it called ALICE before. It stands for Assets Limited, which is kind of like everybody today. Income constrained, but employed. 30, I think it's actually over 40%, honestly. 30+%, that's 1 in 3. I think it's like 40%. Who knows? But it's at least well over 30% of United States households are under the category of ALICE, assets limited. In other words, you're working twice as hard and making half as much, and you absolutely can't afford anything. I work 7 days a week. I have multiple jobs. I haven't had health insurance in 15 years. It's getting worse day by day, and that's the whole plan. I mean, that is the plan. It's like, people think, well, you know, things are just kind of closing in. It's like, you know, the chain of causation, which of course is multiple vectors for this, don't you? So many people are just so blind, so completely myopic. They're kind of like those mole rats. They're completely blind and they can't sense anything beyond the tip of their snout, and they burrow their way through the dirt looking for worms. I think most people are like those mole rats, unfortunately. By the way, this is, of course, purely anecdotal. My local Lowe's says that they're picking and hammering off the locks to steal the power tools now at least once a week. And, of course, the number one thing stolen is power tools. And I said, well, how are they getting them? You got them behind lock and key. It's like, oh, yeah, they're picking the locks or they're hammering the locks off. They're actually, it's not funny, they're taking the tools in the store, you know, like hammers and the sledgehammers. A good sledgehammer whack, you know, will, unless it's a super duper beefy lock, will take it right off. They're using the tools in the store to remove the lock so that they could swipe the tools in the store. Isn't that ironic? Not really. I I don't know if this is good news or bad news. I have absolutely zero respect for EVs. Tesla's first quarter net income falls by 55%. Everything in the news, and I don't pay attention to the news except peripherally because they're such hideous liars, but I've had people that live right next to some of these campuses send me emails like, yeah, it's absolutely amazing what's going on. These college campus protests are completely off the rails. For example, Columbia University, the president, whose name is Minouche Safik, announced that remote learning will remain in place for the college's 37,000 plus students until the end of the spring semester, amid ongoing tensions. I wouldn't call it tensions. I'd call it something way worse. I'm not going to use the words I'm thinking of here. It's not tension. All of these college students should actually be suing these universities, which are not places of learning. They're indoctrination centers to brainwash people. I mean, that's what they are now. All these places of higher... The worst, don't you find it amazing that it's not like Joe Blow Community College in Bumblescum, Arizona? It's the prestigious colleges, the elite colleges, the Ivy League colleges. The places that are getting the least amount of education. And these are the pseudo-intellectuals, especially the Northeast. They think that they're superior. They think everybody in Kentucky is like some sort of, barefoot and pregnant, illiterate redneck. Even the people that hate me know better than that about me. I've read more books than them. I know more languages than them. Certainly more intelligent, more importantly, more wise. They really do. Remember when Katie Couric suffered all that flack recently, like a week and a half ago? She was basically saying everybody from the Southeast is anti-intellectual. Well, hi, Katie Couric, I got news for you. I've read more books than you. I've written more books than you. I know more languages than you. This has nothing to do with class conflict. Class only exists in the mind of these pseudo-intellectuals that want there to be classes. The only true class is that of wisdom and understanding. That is a type of class system, but not in the class system that these people perpetually make reference to, which is really about money. I know a lot of people that have a lot of money that are incredibly unintelligent. There's one guy, he must be the least intelligent person on earth. I'm not going to mention his name. My God, I mean, mega billionaire and easily one of the least intelligent people on planet Earth. It just goes to prove that money can't buy intelligence, of course, much less wisdom. These, by the way, as has been proven, are not grassroots protests. Everybody said, well, they're protesting the conflict over there and the injustices of this group versus that group. These are not grassroots protests. There is a very clear money trail on these peeps. 14 million, for example, came from one society that's headed up and owned by the guy that looks like Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars, the guy that looks like his face looks like a dripping candle. I'm not going to mention the name of that society that he owns that just gave $14 million. These are not grassroots protests. Obviously, there are grassroots people that are joining in, as they say, useful, what's that quote, useful idiots, that are joining in. I mean, you could call that grassroots, but these are funded by big money entities behind this. Denver, by the way, you should feel so proud of yourself, Colorado. Not. Just announced $45 million in funding for programs to help people that are not citizens, not for taxpayers. Chicago, by the way, is about to literally implode and pop like a balloon because of stuff like this. Not that it wasn't bad before. But the police force is getting an $8 million budget cut. Yeah. Well, what do you think about that? Not only is the money being taken from the police department of Denver, but it's being given to people that have never paid any taxes or never contributed in any way, Let me get this straight. Your state taxes are going towards people that have never paid taxes, and the people that you need for your defense and security. And any cop will tell you this. I know an awful lot of cops. It seems like half my family's on the police department, or has been on the police department. They will tell you that they will never get there in time if anything bad goes down. What they'll do is, if I got a piece of chalk here, I've made this comment before many times. The police, don't believe, take my word for it. The cops will tell you this is true. They will show up 8 minutes after you are cold, kind of like that microwave dinner you took out of the microwave and something happened and you forgot and you left it sitting on the countertop and you came back and it was stone cold. They will show up when you were like that cold chicken pot pie dinner. No one eats pot pies anymore. And they will draw an outline. There he is right there. Yeah. Who suffers the ignorant idea that, and this is not a rant against law enforcement, it's just a statement of fact, that they're going to show up in time to do anything to help you? Did you know like 98% of LFEs, which is lethal force encounters, are less than 90 seconds? They're going to show up with a piece of chalk and you're going to draw an outline. There he is right there, around you, while you're laying there. There he is right there. Just remember that. So, yeah, $8 million cut. This is happening in a lot of different cities, but Denver now is suffering that. I've seen video of this, and there is confirmation of this, even though some are denying it. Odessa, Ukraine, Odessa, Ukraine, as they would say in Ukrainian. Yes, I know Ukrainian. Yeah. Showing elements of the French army entering that city. It appears to be direct entry into the Ukraine conflict by a NATO member country. Supposedly they were bringing artillery battery to some front line. There's some confirmation of this even from the French government. I've heard that the Russians have actually overtaken them. I'm going to use the word overtaken. That's the word I'm going to use. There's over 600,000 soldiers and otherwise who have met their end in this conflict over there. Listen, I've been to Ukraine many times. I lived in Russia for quite a long time. I don't confuse people with their governments. I see so many ignorant and extremely unintelligent people, saying, I hope one side destroys the other. I mean, it's just so ignorant and myopic to say something that stupid. But the conflict, every expert agrees, is soon to end. I predicted this right from the get-go. It's just taken a whole lot longer. I predicted it would happen in a short order of time. I had no idea there'd be such a huge influx of military hardware to prolong it. And what it did is it prolonged a whole lot of horrible things to happen. Here's the thing people don't get about Russia. One guy actually who's on the inside of Hydra, as I'll call it, he talked about how Hydra and these evil entities that are trying to reset the world, why they have an absolute seething, like their fangs are dripping, despise of Russia, by the way, that would be in Russian. Why they can't stand Russia with a passion. Russia, as well as China, are the fly in the ointment. They are the roadblock to implementing this totalitarianism. Amazingly, these socialist countries are the biggest roadblocks to implementing a type of socialism, but rather it's absolute totalitarianism. What this is absolute pure evil totalitarianism versus vis-a-vis a couple countries as socialist roadblocks. And, the enemy of my enemy, I don't know if you know that old saying, but, just 5 years ago, if I thought I'd see so many people, hating on their own country and singing praise to, the head of Russia, I would be... it's like what instance brought that on, but I know what it is, and if you don't know what it is, you haven't spent more than 10 seconds thinking about it, but Russia is the roadblock. So Hydra absolutely cannot stand Russia with a passion. They appreciate the fact that they have total control over their citizenry, and I get along great with the Russian people. Very friendly with them, and they appreciate that I speak absolutely без акцентов and live there, and I know Russia quite well. But I mean, you can't hold up a protest sign there for 10 minutes without being threatened to be thrown in jail for 10 years, and they'll do it to you. Any of the freedoms that you take for granted in whatever country it is you live in, even most of Europe, you don't have it in Russia. Sorry, I'm not, I don't confuse Russia with Russian citizenry. I am not a stupid person. I don't confuse those two. So I don't confuse the totalitarianism that exists in that country, even though I get along great with the Russian people. And I know what's going on in Ukraine as well. I mean, they've blocked opposition election of a lot of other people, and the stuff that I can't talk about, that we all know what's going on there. Unfortunately, Hydra and the military-industrial complex and a few other entities, you could blame the United States all you want, but most of Europe joined in wholeheartedly against this conflict, but unfortunately a lot of horrible things have been prolonged for far, far too long. Every fool out there thinks, unfortunately, basically the entire internet thinks that it's Ukraine versus Russia, Russia versus Ukraine, and it's not. This is, and by the way, no one mentions this. There is no single person, no matter how stupid they may be, there might be one stupid person out there that thinks this, that denies the fact that Russia amassed troops on the border with Ukraine and they rolled in heavy with a lot of equipment. I mean, that is just 100% undeniable. You can't even begin to think to dispute that fact. I mean, they did, but that being irrelevant at this point, even though it's incredibly pertinent, every fool out there thinks it's Russia versus Ukraine. And or NATO, sticking their thumb into it and pumping a lot of kinetic military hardware in there and prolonging the misery. It's not about Russia versus Ukraine. It's about Hydra completely devastating. It was like, well, you're never going to defeat Russia? Well, let me tell you what, girlfriend. I've been all over Russia. Other than a few cities and an enormous amount of military hardware, and this is a fact, this is not my opinion, Russia does not even have the economy of Texas. They have a lot of gas and natural minerals and diamonds and gold. Yes, they do have all of that. But they still don't have the economy of Texas. Most of Russia, I don't even want to use the words, what I can tell you of what I've seen of most of Russia, including Moskva. Moskva, by the way, is Moscow. These are not advanced places. I get along great with the Russian people. I mean, I would love to go back to Russia. The most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life is in Ukraine, Krim. Прилетел на Симферополь, там на автобус на Ялту. Very, very beautiful. I've never seen anything more beautiful than that. Of course, Russia has completely dominated Krim, or Crimea as you would call it in English, for a long time, many years. What they're trying to do is they don't have to beat Russia. They just need to weaken it and economically destroy it to the point of total impotency. Russia is a huge roadblock and the fly in the ointment of implementing a global reset. It just is. It's like, what's worse than the complete and total lack of freedoms that you have in Russia? What's worse than that? Well, I'll give you the answer to that. Total WEF Hydra reset, domination, overturning the world, what anybody with 2 eyeballs and a half a brain can see. What's worse than that? The fact that in this country you can't hold up a protest sign, even an innocent one, for 10 minutes, they'll throw you in jail for a decade. I mean, that's a fact, Jack. It's undeniable. Don't even think of arguing with me about it. It's a fact. What's worse than that? Well, the total global reset that these entities that I'm humorously calling Hydra want, and they are the fly in the ointment. Everybody's just looking at, they're wagging their finger at NATO, or they're blaming Ukraine, or they're blaming Russia. You need to look at who's trying to economically destroy Russia, because they are the fly in the ointment. Don't you even get that? Most people don't get that, and that is the problem. Right now, I'm about 1,000% convinced that Israel is 100% trying to drag the United States into full-on conflict. This is just, the manipulation is absolutely completely off the Richter scale. They are trying to do everything they can, and I know the reasons why they want to do it, and you should know that. I'm not going to enumerate them here. But they're trying to drag the United States into full-on conflict. They are. This is only delayed. You know, the tit and tat back and forth of this month is going to escalate. Right now they're doing a lot of planning and they're trying to figure out how they could draw us in. Everything absolutely says that. If you want to contest that, I'd love to read your intelligent conclusions on that. I read every comment. Here's a comment I see everywhere now, and I thought I'd read this comment. It's not mine. Everybody's saying this basically everywhere. I'm still trying to figure out how we have homeless, working poor, no health care, roads falling apart, old folks forced to eat cat food and work at Walmart to afford medicine, yet our GOVT is somehow always able to find trillions of dollars for everybody except its own citizens. And we could say Canadian citizens, we could say United States citizens. You take your pick. That's the comment everybody's been making for the past couple years. I'd like to hear your opinion on that one. Minister Sergei Lavrov, which is basically the lapdog of the head of Russia, Mr. Putin, said the United States has led a collective assault against Russia with potentially catastrophic kinetic conflict, i.e. WAR, between global nuclear powers due to openly hostile stance against Russia and efforts to undermine existing control agreements. I know how Russia signals things, and this is actually a huge signal from Russia. Sergei Lavrov, he always says what Putin is thinking. That's essentially the summation of it. And they're basically warning over and over and over again. By the way, there's tons of video of this. There's a propaganda that was broadcast out by the West and Europe at this huge, ginormous radio tower in Kharkov, Ukraine. The Russian aerospace forces hit it, and they absolutely blasted it to smithereens. The video is quite stunning. I mean, it is one super gigantic broadcast tower. The Russians said, "No more of that!" I don't know what they blasted it with, but the blast was really, it's on video, it's on several videos. It's quite stunning. So that's been blown to smithereens. The Russians were tired of Western propaganda, or at least what they think is propaganda, filtering out to the citizenry. It's kind of remarkable to me how there's just so many fools on the news, and I know how evil and ignorant the news is. But more than just the news. People are asking, why is this happening? You know, why are the police being defended? And why is this happening and that happening? It's all by design. All of this stuff is happening by design. It's like, no intelligent person would do this. It's like, when you see that, I forget who said this, when you understand the destination, then you understand the path. These people, they have no clue apparently what the destination is. But if you know the destination of Hydra, the path becomes abundantly clear. It's like, oh, that's why they're doing that. It makes total sense. It kind of shocks me that people aren't able to see this. I was right a few years ago when all the nonsense started going off the Richter scale. Right now, scams are off the scale. I've talked to bank managers and talked with an online payment service person. I've talked to local people. The scams that I get, whether it's to buy my home or this scam or that scam, everybody's getting desperate and things are reaching a crescendo. You know it if you've had your eyes open at all. I mean, I know you know it. One of the things that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, insofar as what the evil is trying to do, is that there's so many ignorant people. It's amazing, all these college-educated. I went to college many years, okay? These college-educated, pseudo-intellectual mentally inept people are fueled by emotions rather than logic. They're wrecking the world at, they have to be making Hydra happy. They can't step back and make a rational, logical, objective observation about what is and what is not. They're fueled by emotions. You should never, the only time people should listen to emotional anything is if it's videos, movies, music, your love for your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever the heck, your child, your dog, your cat. Those are the only emotions that are valid. Everything else needs to be rational, objective examination. These people, I have a college degree. It's like, yeah, but you're an irrational, emotional, fueled fool who can't make an intelligent observation. Nothing you say has any value. Well, I feel this way. Well, nobody cares how you feel. You're entitled to your own feelings. You're not entitled to your own facts. This is one of the things that's going to accelerate the reset. It's working exactly how they want. I'd like to point out to you a few facts in closing here that there are metals of commerce, like gold, silver, platinum, and there are metals of force. This entire earth, since the dawn of time, has been dominated by the metals of force. If you buy gold, silver, you buy this, you buy that, how much gold you got, how much silver you got. I will remind you, for the safety of you and your own, to look into the metals of force versus, should be called the metals of defense. But the same metals that can be used for defense are also two of the same metals of force. Make a clear distinction in your brain, and no one talks about this, between the metals of commerce and the metals of force. The greatest currency going forward is independence on as many fronts as possible. Unfortunately, WAR is 100% inevitable, very, very unfortunately so. It's how society gives itself a l'enema. Society always gives itself l'enema. Very, very unfortunate. And it's always been that way. I hate to say that. And it's going to go that way until humanity smartens up, which apparently is not in my lifetime. Your job is to avoid it and to survive it. That is your job. I wish you the best. My friends are moving up here from Florida. They have a farm, and, people I know that are watching what's going on, they made a lot of moves for their own security's sake. And brother, you trust me on anything, you better trust me on that one. I hope you have a lovely day, and lux e veritas. Remember to not confuse your emotions with objective facts. Be rational. Save your emotions for your family, your dog, your children, music, movies, your favorite foods. Keep your emotions out of everything else. If people did that collectively, man, this world would change overnight, on a dime, for the better. But it won't. Trust me, it won't. It won't happen.